And yesterday was World Tuberculosis Day, and every year the Houston Health Department employees deliver more than 25,000 doses of antibiotics to people with TB. 150 people in Houston become infected with tuberculosis every year. Chief Medical Officer with the City of Houston, Dr. David Purse, joining me now. Dr. Purse, you know, a lot of people, I think you hear tuberculosis and you think like, well, that's an ancient disease. That's a disease in history. People don't realize that it's still around.
Yeah, that's right. You know, you see a lot of these old Western movies.
Right,
and,
yeah.
We talk about tuberculosis, but no, it's here today.
Yeah, so why is it critical that people know about this, and what would the symptoms be? I mean, how would somebody know in today's current age that they have tuberculosis?
You know, so tuberculosis is one of those really sneaky diseases. First of all, it's airborne, which means it floats around in the air, and you generally become infected by breathing it in from somebody who was not only infected, but was also sick with the disease, and they were coughing it. So the way it works is you breathe it in, and most people they'll become infected, but they don't get sick. And in fact, one of the good things is that if you're infected with it and you're not sick with it, it's easily treated once you get diagnosed. You don't have symptoms, you can't spread it once you're just infected. But given time, you will then develop the disease where you will then, very often, you start off with a cough. Now, tuberculosis can infect any organ system, your eyes, your brain, your hearts. Usually it infects your lungs and you start coughing, and it's just a nagging cough. It's not a particularly bad cough, but it's a nagging cough, and it doesn't go away. And the whole time you're coughing, you're putting those bacteria into the air where other people can breathe them. Eventually, the infection in your lung will get to be so bad that you'll start coughing up blood, and that's when people will go to their doctors and say, hey, I'm a little bit worried, I'm coughing up blood. Problem is, by that point, you've been spreading the disease for weeks or months before,
wow.
And generally it's to your family members and the people closest to you.
Yeah, yeah. So then, I mean, we see people getting a vaccine here, an injection of some sort. Do they have to get antibiotics via injection to treat this?
No, so here's the other good news. Now, again, I talked about you're infected but don't have any symptoms, and then eventually you'll develop the disease. So either way, you can be treated with oral medications, with antibiotics. But one of the things is that you need to take the antibiotics for a really long period of time, because here's the other thing about tuberculosis. It is really tenacious. It'll get into the nooks and crannies. Think of it this way: it gets in the nooks and crannies of your body and it hides there. And it just takes a really long time for the antibiotics to get to every one of those bacteria and kill it. And one of the problems that we've had over generations is that if you wait until you get, symptoms and you get diagnosed, you start taking the antibiotics will work pretty quick to make you feel better, but the tuberculosis will still be there. So if you stop taking the antibiotics, two things happens. One is you're going to get sick again. But the other thing, the more worrisome thing for everyone else, is that the bacteria that survived the antibiotics that you took now have some resistance to those antibiotics. So not only do you need to start taking antibiotics again, you probably need to take more antibiotics and for a longer period of time. And not only that, but when you get sick the second time and you're spreading it, you're now spreading drug-resistant tuberculosis to your friends and family members, who, when they get sick, are going to need a much more aggressive form of medical therapy to get rid of it. So,
oh no.
This is one of the things about TB. This is why it's still around. It's so hard to get ahead of.
Yeah, but where did that misconception come from, though, that people think that it's gone? Do you have any idea?
Yeah, so this is no good deed going unpunished. So here in the United States in particular, our public health system has done a pretty good job of keeping tuberculosis at a low level. We've not been able to eradicate it, but we've kept it at a low level. And one of the reasons we've been able to do that is that when we put people on the antibiotic therapy, we go out of their house and we watch them take the medicines throughout the entire course. Because,
wow.
As I said, what most people unfortunately do is they take the medicine until they feel better and then they stop taking it. But we have to, it's called DOT, directly observed therapy. So we'll go to your home, we'll give you the medication, we'll watch you swallow it. And unfortunately, we have to visit you, for months on end to make sure the entire course gets done. And across the United States, that's what has kept it low. But again, we've not been able to eradicate it.
Wow. So you actually have to be observed by somebody with the health department taking that medication. I had no idea.
Yeah.
So,
and well, with the advancement today, we can actually do video direct observed therapy. So if you got the ability to do it that way, it makes it a little bit easier on everyone, but that's another option.
Yeah, but it's that serious. So who's more at risk of getting infected? I'm assuming you're going to maybe say like older people and younger people.
Sure. It's anybody who's got a weakened immune system. So babies and little kids, it's not that their immune system is weak, it just hasn't matured, it hasn't developed, it hasn't become as strong as it will need to be to fight off. So when kids become infected, they tend to go from infection to disease pretty quickly. And then the same for anyone else who's got any sort of immune problems. So people with AIDS, elder folks, people who've got other medical conditions that weaken their immune system, they will tend to go from being infected to having active disease relatively quickly. And in addition, they tend to get quite a bit sicker, as you can imagine. So what is common, however, is that a young, healthy person gets infected and they don't have any symptoms. Unfortunately, they can't spread it. But eventually something will happen. They'll develop an illness, or they'll maybe just get older, at which point it will transition over to active disease, and they'll start coughing and being able to spread it before they get treated. And again, that's part of the reason why we keep chasing our tail trying to get a hold of tuberculosis.
Yeah. Have you noticed any spike in cases recently, or any reason that you might want people to hear this and take it seriously right now?
So again, fortunately here in Houston, it's still here. And as you pointed out, we treat hundreds of people every year. We have not seen a big jump. Now, yesterday was, World Tuberculosis Day. So that's there to remind us, because part of it is the complacency of society. So there is World Tuberculosis Day to do exactly what you and I are doing this morning, is bring it back to the forefront. Let's talk about it. Let's get it back on our radar. And let's pay attention to all of our efforts to try to eradicate it. First of all, make those people who are sick better, and then to see if we can't prevent anybody else from getting sick.
Yeah, that would be a dream come true. Dr. David Pearce, we always appreciate you coming on the show and spreading awareness for things like this. Lots of things about tuberculosis that I didn't know and I just learned for the very first time. We appreciate your time this morning.
Thanks, Hank.